This is the education verdict. Straight questions, real answers, no fluff. Co-powered by Hop Class and Mayoor School, Jaipur. Over the past decade, Indian schools have seen an explosion of EdTech. Apps, dashboards, AI tutors, smart boards, learning platforms. Pilot looks impressive. Teachers are trained, students are excited, usage spikes, report looks strong. And then the pilot ends, the excitement fades, usage drops, renewals stall, the tool disappears. Sound familiar? India now has over 1.4 million schools, yet sustained systems-wide EdTech adoption remains rare. Billions have been invested. So here is the difficult question. If EdTech is so powerful, why does it struggle the moment we try to scale it? Because what works in one classroom does not automatically work across an entire school. And if it cannot scale, it is not reform. Tonight, we examine why EdTech success stories stay small and what it would actually take to make technology work inside real Indian classroom. Let us begin. Joining us tonight, Balaji Ramanujam, co-founder, Tinker Village, Mumbai. Naman Kandoi, director, Mayoor School, Jaipur. Archana Mankotia, director, Maharani Gayatri Devi Girls Public School, Jaipur. And Shobhan Soy, chief executive officer, Clay Group of Schools, Punjab. Thank you all for being here. In one line, does EdTech improve learning in most Indian schools today? Yes or no, and why? Please keep the answers short, in no order.
So if I may go first, I think EdTechs can solve the learning problem in schools if they focus on partnering with the right schools. They're too focused on scale. They want to partner with schools which have thousands of children at once, which can be signed up. And that is where implementation fails. If they partnered with smaller schools which work closely with the students and parents, I think the results would be there to see.
I feel that EdTech companies have to understand the school system. And that is where there's a little mismatch, and hence they can bring in a lot of change and improvement, but it's not happening as of now for various reasons.
So I feel the schools are not a software market. They are heavily human resource. And that is where the EdTech and the human capacity building do not come together. And the biggest reason for failure or not scaling up is probably the EdTech company is not focusing on development of the humans. They're focusing on giving tools to make it easy for the teachers. And I think we need to shift our focus towards the human development.
So if the answer to this question were yes, for the money that has been pumped into the sector, we'd be having so many success stories being talked about. So the broad answer from my side is no, but there are some pockets of narrow successes and sustained successes.
Let us confront what schools often hesitate to say publicly. Why does EdTech work in pilots but fail at scale?
So the main reason is, as I said, it's a mismatch. When you look at the pilots, when the pilot is seen in the when it is introduced in the school, it is introduced in perfect ideal conditions. So teachers are excited and they're looking at the various options available, the various modules which are being presented. Everything looks very good and they're excited even for the next 3, 4, 5 days. But when they actually start going into the classroom and they start implementing that, it doesn't work for various reasons. The time constraint, the lesson plan which they have envisaged, maybe it does not match with the software that they have received, and also technical issues of maybe internet and connectivity, which are also a problem in a lot of times. So practically when you start looking at it, then that is where the failure starts.
If I may, I think the question of why it succeeds as pilots but not at scale, at full implementation, is a question of accountability. So during the pilot, the accountability is high with the EdTech service provider as well as the school. And the milestones are very clear and in the short term. As soon as we get to full-scale implementation, the accountability shifts to the students to participate regularly at home maybe to the parents as well. And that is something none of the stakeholders practice during the pilot. So as long as the accountability is established early on, and that same model of accountability is continued through the full-scale implementation, I think we'd see more success after the pilots too.
Yeah, so I think it all depends on what is the starting point for the way the EdTech solution is developed. I think in most cases the starting point is it's a product that's going to solve a need. The starting point is not here is a teacher who's teaching a class. How do I make her life easier, better by bringing my solution in? So I think what happens in many cases is that in the pilot phase, it's okay to add on a little bit of work to actually get the pilot successful. But on a sustained basis, when the teacher feels, that the work she has to anyway deliver what is expected out of her, and then you're adding stuff more on top, it tends to cause a lot of friction and breakdown. At least I've seen many instances where this is a root cause for why pilots don't scale that effectively.
I would like to add a perspective to it. Basically, when we see a new EdTech pilot come in, we generally would see that they either would be bringing up solution to a problem which nobody cared, or they would be bringing in a USP that no other EdTech company would have. Maybe a new AI tool that they have incorporated, maybe a new hardware tool that makes it easy for the classroom management or safety management, security management, some tool they've introduced. At the same time, once everybody else also starts pouring in, a new company will also add up another USP, bring in a lesser price, competitive product, and or maybe sell on a relationship. So the kind of numbers, the kind of investments that the pilot has put in goes into missing on scaling up with new features or competing with the market.
Tell me, does EdTech reduce teacher workload or quietly increases it?
Let me say very frankly, I think every teacher wants to avoid using a technology solution. One reason, they feel that it adds up a lot of work for them, because now they not only have to create a lesson plan, they also have to create a lesson plan on the technology solution. Or they're not just taking an attendance, they're marking an attendance for a software and making sure that the parent is going to see it, so there should not be any error. And also that the teacher is happily creating her classroom with her students, with her resources, and she wants to play free. And when we add in a lot of technology, she's just juggling with, because she's technically not a software person, she's a teacher. So she or he would want to be more staying away from the burden of using technology, rather doing their own way.
I do think this is a pertinent problem. Teachers welcome good solutions. However, they're not free. There is no free time a teacher has during school hours. So if you're adding something, what are you going to take off from their schedule? You can't just expect that teachers will pack in more every single day in every classroom. So I do think that the administrative side of justifying the use of the EdTech tool increases their administrative workload, which is not productive as seen by teachers as well as students. So therefore, they sometimes can get resistant to implementing newer ideas.
I would go as far as to say that, this is like a make or break. Any product that even adds a little bit of workload or effort to the teacher is not going to succeed, right? The entire design philosophy for an EdTech solution in schools has to be, how do you make the teacher's life simpler, better, easier by using this? It's a very tough challenge, and perhaps that's why, you don't have too many success stories out there.
As a teacher, I feel when I enter the classroom, I have a lesson plan in my mind. And sometimes if I start the smart board or something, I might find it intrusive because I have a certain flow, I have a rhythm of teaching, and I have a certain response coming from the children, and we are at a good space. But if I have to use technology, maybe I find it intrusive, and it doesn't solve The issues that I may find, if I have certain teaching issues, it has to solve my problem and not just offer a solution for a problem which is not mine. So it doesn't actually embed into my teaching or my lesson plan.
Are we redesigning schools or simply layering software on top of the old systems?
I think at times it is happening. I mean, I don't know where the edtech companies who plans this, because they have to first understand. They have to be teachers first to understand what is the requirement of the teacher and how can technology improve or support or kind of help the teacher in teaching.
But can that be other way around, where if I was a recent graduate and the kind of problems that I was facing when I was in a school, and if I have a solution to that, I mean, that could also be an angle, right?
As from a student's perspective, yes, definitely. So from a student's perspective, one has to understand what the child wants, how he learns. Everybody has different learning styles. So how children learn, technology is one of them. Some children learn better with one-to-one human connection.
Yes.
So it depends what kind of learning is taking place.
So what's your take on this, Balaji? I mean, are we simply layering the software on the top of the systems?
Yeah, I think we are living in a very complex time, Ravi, right now, right? We are trying to solve basic problems in education through edtech when the world is shifting from right under our feet. So I would say a lot of the players are struggling to figure out what is the right way in. But if you take a step back and look at it, it kind of feels like, you know, most of the solutions try to bring in something extra, which typically ends up becoming a layer, right? If you ask me, I think the way should be the other way around. I think, you know, schools have been there since time immemorial. It's an institution that will stay even in an AI world. Curriculum works by and large, you know, and so many brains have gone behind developing curriculum. I think you should flip the model, and I think EdTech should start with saying, I'm going to take all of this as a given. My only purpose is to figure out how to help children learn better, teachers teach more efficiently and effectively, whatever is given to them, versus trying to come in with new stuff, you know, on top of it. So I think it's a question of just perspective. But I think what you're seeing is a consequence of too many things changing at the same time, and you know, everyone trying to add something extra to cope with that change.
At present, what edtech solutions are offering is simply another layer. As Balaji also mentioned, it's a competitive space. They need to offer something extra to remain relevant. But they are kind of outdated by 2 to 3 generations. If schools took an optimistic outlook towards edtech companies and just school partner vendors in general, that if we give them sustained feedback, if we discuss our problems at length and we create this as a partnership, not as a vendor-client relationship, then those agencies or those companies can quickly, you know, iterate over and produce a product which can add meaningful value to the school system and redefine some of those fundamental, you know, operating systems of a classroom. So I think school principals, especially, I've had so many vendors come to me surprised that how do you give so much time to us? So I think we've created that barrier that the vendors need to wait on us. In fact, we need to wait on them. We need to support them. We need to give them tremendous depth in our feedback so that they can quickly create those solutions.
Take a different take on this. I think most of the edtech companies, if you see, have never been a part of the school ecosystem. So you take on any solution which is today being offered in the market is being sold to the school, most of the time sold as a product that will bring in more admissions because it looks cool, it will add more of a generation next feeling of the school. And that's where I'm talking about the majority schools, the 99% schools who are struggling with admissions, who are struggling with systems. And they're sold the solutions, and then once those solutions are available to them, there are data leakages, there are other things when the school realizes that. So this, I feel a complete school ecosystem needs to be layered within, and technology should be ingrained part of the system. And it should not be layered on top of it, being sold as a product कि मेरा वाला better है आपके वाले से.
Yeah, if I could just add one more point to this very quickly. I think from like what Naman was saying, I think it's a partnership. I think EdTech companies ideally should, have taught in school and should have people who are teachers and, should have at least experts who have the experience in the domain, for sure.
Yeah,
But
ones who are designing it.
The ones who are designing it. But even beyond that, there is a mindset or an attitude that is very critical. It's the starting point. The starting point is not, here's what I have. The starting point is to go and understand what do you want. Right? And if you start with that question on what do you really need, what do you really want, what is the pain point that you have, and start iterating and building for the pain point, these solutions will work better. Versus coming in and saying, here's what I have, here's how it's going to fix what you're currently facing. So that's a mindset or an attitude thing.
Let us widen the lens. Across the world, billions have been invested in educational technology. Yet large-scale studies show something uncomfortable. Simply increasing devices does not automatically improve learning. The difference is not the tool, it is the system around the tool. If exams remain unchanged, if teachers remain overloaded, if leadership does not drive implementation, no dashboards will transform outcomes. In November 2025, a widely shared post on X, formerly Twitter, by Patrick Skinner, a builder at Alpha School in the US, described what he called the EdTech Graveyard. He pointed to one celebrated ventures, Alt School, which raised over $200 million before shutting down most operations. Newton, which secured $180 million and was later sold for parts. More than 2,000 EdTech startups in India that have shut down in recent years. And Byju's, once valued at $22 billion, is now a cautionary tale of aggressive expansion. According to Skinner, these failures were not technical failures. They were alignment failures. He called it mission drift. When teams begin optimizing for daily active users, downloads, engagement spikes, instead of genuine learning outcomes. When growth metrics impress investors, but mastery does not improve in classrooms. The global EdTech market is projected for approaching $400 billion by 2030. That kind of capital creates pressure. Pressure to show scale, pressure to show traction, pressure to show user growth. But education does not reward speed. It rewards depth. So perhaps the problem is not technology. Perhaps the problem is that the incentives driving EdTech do not match the realities of schooling. If we plug innovation into an unchanged exam-driven structure, failure should not surprise us. Who benefits most from EdTech? Students, schools, or investors?
I think investors.
Investors.
Investors in the current format?
Current format, yeah.
I think investors, because that was the purpose of bringing that EdTech. Because the purpose was money.
If you removed most screens for a year, what would improve and what would break?
I think learning will improve. The struggle that we have with technology will not be there any longer. So perhaps I would say classrooms will be more engaging and interactive, rather than children just watching a screen and learning something from there.
I think what will break is, oh, what should I do? I'm getting bored. Oh, what should I do? I don't have any tool to teach them. Now I'll have to work harder. So that kind of easy time pass that the child has with the screen will break. That kind of an ease, that a ready tool with a ready lesson plan, a ready video, that the teacher will not have to work hard, will break. So that's what will break. And the real work will happen slowly in the classrooms.
I think in general, there is more and more evidence that is coming that, if you have technology which is unsupervised, unguided, or not in a broad use of technology in the classroom, leads to more student distractions potentially, right? And is leading to lower learning outcomes in general. Now the jury is still out. There's a lot of debate right now in social media about this, but it kind of feels like, less screens is the direction where the school system is going to go in, and maybe we all should go in with the, to nurture our own human potential rather than become maybe adjuncts of a machine or an AI system, right? Now, I think the way perhaps we should frame this question is not, what will break, what will not. I think the framing should be, what is the role of technology in EdTech, right? And we really need to focus on the education. I mean, I stopped calling ourselves an EdTech company, for example. I'm saying we are education technology. I want to spend time saying the word education, because I think the focus gets missed on education and it goes into technology far too soon. When the solution should be more about education, and technology should be as invisible as possible, making the education happen. I think the question should be framed more in that direction rather than, are screens needed or not?
Also, in the school environment, since we are all discussing the failure of edtechs in schools, if we remove everything and if we consider screens to be the tech part of edtech, it's not necessary. A lot of educational technology companies bring in great innovation without the use of digital technologies. So without screens, I don't think much will break or improve in schools. But definitely at home, if all screens are done away with, parents' mobiles, TVs, laptops, tablets, tremendous improvement in the student learning and their overall mental well-being will come across.
What's that one investment, a large investment in the last decade or so that we want to take back, and why? From schools. I'm not talking about your personal schools. For instance, we are talking about large screens, we are talking about interactive flat panels, and we are talking about smart classes, we are talking about ERPs, we are talking about a lot of other edtech, which are there. Let me kind of repeat this question for you all. What is one edtech investment from the past decade you would take back, and why?
I'd take back the direction towards a device in the hand of each child in the classroom. There's been a lot of investment in the hardware, the iPads for every child, a laptop for every middle schooler, right? I would use technology in a very narrow, guided way, where it has its purpose rather than make technology freely accessible with a device.
So one investment I think most schools should take back would be the digital library. It's kind of an oxymoron. We want children to read real books and everything, and then we say go to the digital library. I think a physical library space where they are kind of encompassed in a world of books, they see books all around them and a librarian guiding them through different genres has kind of gone missing today. So that would be it for me.
So while we are talking about problems, let's talk about some solutions, because a lot of edtech founders and investors, private equity guys, they are watching this or they're going to watch this. Tell us what must fundamentally change for edtech to actually last in Indian schools. Let's also talk about that.
I feel, as I said earlier, people who are framing the edtech modules or curriculum need to be first teachers, simple teachers in school, to understand what is the requirement. First of all, is there a requirement? If there is a requirement, what is it? And what does the teacher want, and what do the students want to improve their learning? It should actually help their understanding, for which we are not testing. Yeah. We are testing only for knowledge. So there is a mismatch of what is expected, what we want to do, and finally what the exams are testing us for. So that entire system of the school has to be understood so that they can improve. Can I give one example? Like we have the ERP system, and in our school we have day scholars, we have day boarders, we have boarders, we have temporary day scholars, we have temporary boarders and temporary day boarders. There's so many categories. Then you have the attendance related to them, the fees and various other things. Now, the ERP system, the person with whom we've been working with, he's been really struggling to get all this in place, because he didn't come with all this. And we said that this is what we want.
So no one solution fit also.
Exactly. So they come with a fixed thing and then they try and tweak it for our school. But it shouldn't be that way. It should be what we want, and then they start building on it. So perhaps that will help the schools.
So your point is to the EdTech founders to invest a considerable time in the classrooms before you come up with some solutions.
Yes, I think we previously discussed this as well. Normally, since we are into software development as well, and normally when a client comes to us, we listen to the problems and then we provide a solution to them. Here in the EdTech world, a solution is created and then it is presented to the school. So I think the analysis part should be first, then the planning part should be there, and then the testing part should be there with that particular school, and that solution should be designed only for that school. And the EdTech companies need to be customized with this school. I know the cost will go very high. And then they would choose the schools which are large scale. But I think the smaller schools can give a better making and planning platform, can work better with the EdTech companies, provide solutions, and wherever the school they're choosing, whichever school the EdTech company is entering, they should create a new customized solution for that school. No doubts they have the tools ready, they can customize with that, and the cost can be manipulated and managed. But unless and until we go by the school's customized needs, ma'am, Archana's school is different and Naman's school is different, my school is different. We have our own way of working, we have our own way of teaching, we have our own pedagogies. So that is where I feel we need a custom solution. We would love to implement that.
So they give you solutions for the problems which we don't have.
Yeah.
But we want solutions for the problems that we have. So that is where the alignment has to come in.
I would say, if it's to an EdTech education technology founder, I would say we have to build for authentic learning and authentic learning outcomes. And the message would be patient, because learning has its own rhythm. It's not easy. Schools have their rhythm. You got to be patient, and you have to have a couple of cycles before you're really convinced that whatever you're building, is going to be of use to the school and is actually going to improve outcomes, right? So I think patience is required from the founder, and from a venture capital standpoint, I would say we really need to look at the seed ecosystem, and the angel ecosystem is the one that really needs to fund all of this early experimentation till the time you have the bamboo shoots ready to just scale. Don't rush into venture capital too early, because that's going to put the pressure on scaling before you got authentic outcomes.
I kind of agree there when you talk about patience with the EdTech founders, because when we speak to a large number of EdTech founders from across the country and of course globally, there is one pattern which emerges that education sales cycle, selling to schools, it is the longest and the most toughest sales cycle when it comes to other categories and other verticals of businesses, where the decision maker is not well informed about the technologies that could possibly transform the learning out there. And then it's a very lengthy process, and then implementation, teacher training and all. So I think when we speak about, or Patrick Skinner's who spoke about over 2,000 EdTech startups in India shut their shop, I think a majority of the reason was also less patience and long sales cycle in schools. So I think, I kind of agree with you, Balaji, over there.
If I can add a point, I'd like to make a point here. So I want to answer this for the two key stakeholders. For the EdTech startup founders, try to focus on building solutions that are invisible enrichments to the learning already taking place, rather than the education theater of visible kits and products and smart boards and branded content, white label content. For the schools, this is a great boon to us that so much money is flowing into this sector. So there is a real cost of innovation. If I as a school was to develop every solution I use from these companies in my school, my fee would be at least 5 times of what it is today. So all these vendors or education partners, private companies, they are absorbing that cost of innovation. And if we took a more optimistic look out towards them and partnered with them deeply, that cost of innovation is being borne by venture capital and these founders. The risk is being borne by them, and they're giving you solutions which they are quite happy to tweak for your needs and context. But they're doing it to the pennies, at pennies to the dollar that it costs them to develop. So I think the school side needs to be more optimistic and partner more deeply with these companies.
Thank you. Thank you for answering my next question in advance.
Ravi, one more point to this. I think an Apple iPhone comes once in a year. But we meet an EdTech company almost daily for some solution. Somebody is selling a shoe which has a privacy feature or a GPS installed into it. And somebody is coming with a smart board, and somebody is coming with a lesson plan ready, and somebody is selling ERP, somebody is selling a CCTV which gives an audit report.
A variety of
things. And tomorrow morning, a new technology will come in the EdTech space. It is that fast. And the EdTech company is also competing and reinvesting and innovating into new solutions just to sustain. And every now and then we have conferences like the ScooNews conference and other conferences, and we see so many solutions being available on the platter. And we get confused as a school what to do. And somebody comes in, gives a better price or a better solution or a USP, and they sell it. Now the challenge is to sustain those edtech companies, they will have to keep reinvesting into technology or building new innovation. The point is, we have to stop it somewhere, or we have to regulate it somewhere that, okay, this is what the school should use and this is what the school should not use. Coming back to your previous question, what would you want to take away? I think I would not even want to introduce AI, because schools, if we talk about the purpose of the schools was, as the Vedas say, Manur Bhava, building the human capacity, Manushya banane ke liye tha. So artificial intelligence is going to take away the human intelligence building anywhere. Even the teacher who was using human intelligence to interact with the child is now going to use this easier tool and would love to take away the things. Artificial intelligence to some extent can be used for improving the assessment quality, maybe looking at the aspects which we ignored. But for the children, I would strongly recommend not using artificial intelligence till the time the full human intelligence that was required to be built in the schools has been used.
The final verdict. One thing vendors must stop doing immediately. No speeches, just clarity.
I think they should first come to the school, have a good discussion, have a good conversation about what is the requirement and what do we look for. And then if they, whatever they work out their EdTech solutions, probably that will be the way to go, because what they, as I said earlier, they come with a pre-planned thing. They've already worked out, they've already decided that you have this problem and this is your solution. So instead of that, if they start with asking us and talking about it and then say, okay, now we will come back to you after a month with this solution. Perhaps that may be one way to go ahead.
I'll give a short answer to this. They need to stop offering kickbacks to the school administration, because those kickbacks, they really curtail the speed of innovation and the quality of feedback that they can receive.
My point is simple. They should stop telecalling.
They should stop telecalling. If they stop telecalling, how are they going to meet their prospective clients?
Sometimes it becomes very difficult to keep telling them no, to put me out of the database, because the same solution every third company is offering, and we don't even remember who called me last time.
But can we not look for a simple solution where we fix a day in a month, where you only spend a few hours to listen to all these EdTech vendors? Let's imagine a day when all the doctors in the world stop meeting the medical representatives. They won't come to know. Now you don't need to prescribe 3 medicines because there is a new invention where all the 3 salts are there. So something like that. But
yes.
I get your sentiment.
I agree.
I get your sentiment. A lot of spamming is happening in EdTech vendors. Email is a good solution. If a school is interested, they will certainly revert back to you.
They have their websites and we'll find out the best one we want.
Yeah, so day 0, go to the school and try to understand their pain points. Don't sell, build for the pain points. The sale will happen automatically.
Tonight's discussion makes one thing clear. Technology alone does not transform education. When EdTech fails, it is rarely a software problem. It is a leadership problem, an alignment problem, an accountability problem. You cannot plug innovation into an old structure and expect revolution. If schools remain exam-obsessed, teacher overloaded and structurally unchanged, even the best tools will struggle. India does not need more pilots. India needs scalable, sustainable, teacher-centered innovations. Because in education, scale is the real test. A tool that works for 10 students but collapses for 1,000 is not reform. It is demonstration. And here is the question that should stay with us. The real issue is not whether EdTech is powerful. The real issue is whether we are prepared to change the system around it. That is tonight's education verdict. Straight questions, real answers, no fluff. Co-powered by Hop Class and Mayoor School, Jaipur. Good night.